But when you measure it flat, it contradicts that. I'm spitting flat facts and that. And I know you don't like that. Google Maps is flat, it presents elevation profiles like that. I'm a spitting flat earth king. Sentence has a ring, doing my own thing. If earth was a big roast chicken, factually finger licking chicken, we just got the measurements missing. I'm spitting eggs and begs, begging the question lesson. I've said it before, time after time. I'm the spitting flat earth king of rhyme.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a coffee, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by Neil, Adam, Len, Surf Daddy, Arthur, Jin, somebody else who I can't see, and a whole bunch of people in the Flipside Discord server. So welcome one and all.
How are you?
Yep. Happy New Year to you all.
Hello.
Good morning. Just in case I haven't said that to anybody, there you go.
Good evening.
Wishing you all the best for 2026 in the way of good health and continuous prosperity. And let's hope that Nathan's book comes out this year and uplifts his family financially. And yeah, it's the horizontal constant year, 2026, the year of the horizontal constant. So keep looking and keep listening. Thank you.
Yeah, it absolutely will come out this year. It'll come out hopefully by Easter. So obviously my bit and the bit my wife is helping me with, that's to say the editing, typing and tapping and moving text around, changing its font size, all that kind of stuff will have to be done prior to it going off to the publisher. Then there may be a delay caused by that, although I doubt it. I would imagine that you can pretty much bosh it out immediately in however it's going to be, so that there's at least something, even if it's only an e-copy initially. You know, it'll be available to be read by Easter, I would hope, pending any delays. I will still run it by a few people, very, very, very carefully selected people before it does go off for publishing. But yeah, I'd say Easter is a realistic estimation for when the book will come out. I still feel myself leaning into the All Roads Lead to Flat Earth title, because it's just so predominant in terms of the last couple of years, in terms of what we do here. At the moment,
well, I strongly support that. 100% support that title. Thank you very much.
I mean, it's
great.
How about that? I like Welcome to Flat Earth.
Yeah, it's gone through 4 different title revisions: Housekeeping, All Roads Lead to a Flat Earth. It's The Ultimate Reference, and then Welcome to Flat Earth. It's gone through 4 different working titles, but of the 4, I personally feel All Roads Lead to Flat Earth is enough that if it was literally on the shelf in a library or on a bookshelf in a store, you'd read the title and it would intrigue you to a degree. That is to say, Welcome to Flat Earth is a bit too confrontational. It potentially could alienate people. Calling it a reference guide, it isn't anymore, because all of the work that was being offered as help has had to be removed, so that I get sued by 2 thieving bastards. So you can't call it a reference book anymore. The original title of Housekeeping, while that does form the structure of the chapters, it isn't necessarily an accurate description of what the book actually presents. But the journey of me for the last 10 or 11 years is one of the roads, be them conspiratorial or social, leading to Earth being flat. And an unequivocal declaration of that fact throughout the pages is what the reader will get presented with. So in my mind, All Roads Lead to Flat Earth, or All Roads Lead to a Flat Earth, is the best title thus far, in my opinion.
Now that you
I would
explained it
second,
like
hang on a
that,
minute, Neil. I would second that, Nathan, because I was born in 1961, and when I look back at my life, I've been down many roads, and when I look back, all of those roads required a flat Earth. So all roads do lead to a flat Earth is such a great title, and it's not alienating anyone. It's an intrigue. It's a beautiful lure. I'll stop there.
Yeah, I
Sorry,
agree.
Neil.
well, now that you explained it like that, I agree. It's your journey. Absolutely.
Well, the other thing is, in a, I think, cathartic way, the description that Jin just gave is also true when he's talking about his, David Copperfield-esque, I was born, etc., from your beginnings to where we are now, in a kind of almost religious manner. I do feel like I have been led by God on certain paths. Now, that's an analogy that I use frequently, and I don't just mean in the last 10 years. I mean, as an example, I've sued various different people in courts for various different things. Very stressful every single time. And in those moments, 20 years, however, 25 years ago, say, when I was doing those sorts of endeavours because I'd been wronged by somebody, I felt aggrieved at the process. And it was distressing, present tense, past present tense, right? In the moment, it was distressing. Now, looking back on those times, I feel like they were intentionally part of my journey to make me who I am now. Now, that could be true unilaterally applied to anybody for anything, but most people don't do interesting stuff. Now, I'm not saying that going through a court process for anybody, suing for copyright infringement or suing for defamation or suing for unfair dismissal or any of the things I've sued people for, something interesting. I'm just saying that they left me in a battle-hardened state, capable of enduring 10 years of flat earthing, the ridicule, the mocking, the mockery rather, those things I have endured because I've become battle-hardened through certain things that I have done in my life on the road to where we are now. Now, I feel that if I wasn't as battle-hardened, as much as I hate to pity Jaron, I might have become the type that, like Jaron, felt if I just transition back onto the ball, there's a potential for greater degrees of success, more financial gain. And that's where he ended at the last hurdle. Would anybody disagree if I was to say that Jaron fell at the last hurdle, right on the cusp of us going, the society that we live in today could potentially turn around tomorrow and go, I always knew it was flat, or yes, that's just how Earth got measured, or well, that's how I've always been measuring it. Whatever you're most comfortable with, not feeling like that person's intentionally trying to deceive you, that they knew something they really didn't, when everybody can but only appreciate how flat Earth is based on how it is measured, which is the reason I suggest that the general public can come to that acceptance. So being that is the case, and we are, in my humble opinion, on the cusp of at least potential that the masses at large could recognise how flat Earth is, over and above the indoctrination given to them, the hidden hand has provided them with an education structure that's indoctrinated them into a belief that simply isn't true. Now, with that being said, Jaron, in my opinion, fell at the last hurdle.
I don't think Jaron fell at the last hurdle. I think he forgot to tie his shoelaces. He didn't take up your advice. You tried to help him sharpen his tools, and he called you a scammer. He's an idiot.
Yeah, and he's scamming anyway. So it's unfortunate that he went back. I think that was his intention all along. I don't think he fell at the last hurdle at all. But also, I don't think that. Well, anyway, as far as my experience is, people are not aware that the Earth is measured flat. They're going to come to that realization when they actually look into it. Maybe they read your book, for example, and then penny drops there, whatever. The thing is, that's when they're going to realize that it's always been measured flat. They don't know that currently. Currently, they're believing they're on a globe. No, remember, nobody knows the Earth is a globe. No human being knows that. One, doesn't exist. Two, Earth is measured flat. No human beings measuring curvature. Therefore, people currently don't even know Earth is measured flat. That's where we come in.
Okay.
There you are.
Here's how I disagree. So it became abundantly aware when one of my daughters came back from a brownies. I think it's not even brownies. It was the one prior, which is called Rainbows. And she came back with a tool for measuring angles to stars, and a compass. That's what she came back with. Now, both of those tools unequivocally taught that girl, my daughter, Clover. Eleanor didn't do the same. I'm sure she did do the same class. She just didn't come back and present it to me. But Clover, when she presented me with a star angle tool, a really crude device she'd made herself in that class, and a compass, she knew for sure and without a doubt that Earth is flat. What do I mean? A compass is a flat Earth tool of directionality. It's a two-dimensional aspect pointing device that can only afford you a flat Earth direction. The angle measuring device was for measuring elevation angles to stars for the sole purpose of navigation. And an understanding of the tool that she made, which she definitely demonstrated, meant that she demonstrated an admirable understanding from an early age of how flat Earth actually is when applying tools of measurement to it. Now, it may be the case that there are individuals out there who have never been Boy Scouts, have never used a map, and have never held a compass. Now, it's going to be a minority, I would suggest. My faith in humanity is such that most people understand how a map works. They've been through a geography class, and it was detached. It was given you in isobars and weather reports and certain aspects of cyclical nature that would be governed by, I know it's not science, but natural law, which you would expect to be taught in the science class. It wasn't. It was taught in geography. This do-si-do of category errors that you got in school was intentional to keep you from the truth of how flat Earth is, because they're going to be teaching you the religion of how flat it isn't in the form of heliocentrism. But they still need you to know, at a very basic level, how we functionally operate on the ground in geography. So I would put it to you, Jin, that at a base level you're wrong, because people do know how to measure Earth, and it is and has been taught to them as flat for them to have an maybe you would say disingenuous, but recognition of how flat they always knew it was.
Unfortunately, I totally disagree with that. That's a misrepresentation of what I'm putting forward. Ladies and gentlemen, I put it for you strongly like this. There are currently surveyors out there who are measuring Earth flat every day of the week and still believe they're on a globe. So they don't even understand the ramifications of the measurements they're making in connection to where they live. And anybody at school, when they're taught about how to use a map and a compass, I learned at school, I also learned in the cadets, also learned in the army. You are not connecting the dots to you are living on a flat Earth. So I say again, nobody knows they're living on a globe. That's a fact, because they haven't measured that curvature. When they go out, they measure flat Earth. And that will be the ones who are looking, the flat earthers. Everybody else, they just believe they're on a globe, even if they're using maps and compasses and surveying. Okay? They all believe they're on a globe. That's my point. So they can never get away with, I always knew it was flat. No, they never always knew. They never knew it was flat. They thought it was a globe they lived on, even when they were measuring the Earth flat. That's how strong the deception is. And I'm speaking about the deception and how people have been duped, even to the point where they're measuring the Earth flat and not realizing they're living on the Earth flat. I'm never going to let that one go. Thank you very much.
Sure, but as a cadet, while you're saying I didn't join the dots, but ipso facto, you did measure Earth flat, though. You understand that, right?
Oh, without a doubt, but I didn't realize I was actually measuring the flat Earth where I lived. I didn't connect that dot. Do you see what I mean?
I've got you.
I'm living on a flat Earth.
I understand what you're saying.
So even though I might have been measuring, I still thought I was on a globe, of course.
No, I got that. So the A, B, C, and D of it is that A, we all were indoctrinated into belief we're on a globe. The B and C is that we do functionally operate with a flat Earth. Whether we recognise that that is the Earth as a flat plane, we automatically must be dwelling atop to measure it in that way or not. But when I say that I know you don't like my phraseology, because your objection is to suggest or infer that somebody might intentionally lie about not having believed they were on a ball, in spite of the fact that they, as a cadet for the sake of argument, did ipso facto measure Earth flat when they were functionally utilising Earth. The fact that for you don't see the connection when you're a cadet, and you don't see that the Earth that you're dealing with as a flat plane and navigating and orienteering as a flat plane, you didn't see through your own belief of it being a ball when doing so, doesn't alter that you still did so. That is to say, you did, as one individual, measure Earth flat, giving a ray of hope that each individual who has measured Earth flat in a functional capacity, any functional capacity, has the means to say, well, I did measure Earth flat. It may not be the case that they have to deceive and say, oh, and I never believed it was a ball, which is kind of where I feel your objection could be rephrased. Like someone might say, oh, well, I never believed that nonsense. If the worm turns and everybody appreciates how flat the world is, this generation won't get away, for you at least, in saying, well, I always knew it weren't really a ball because I measured it flat. It's like, no, you had that pointed out by others, us in this instance, in this moment.
That's absolutely correct. And no one will be able to get away with that. Like I said, I speak to my own experience, of course, as I'm using the compass, both in the cadets and in the army. We are not connecting the dot that we're living on a flat Earth. That realization was never realized. So although we are utilizing a flat and it's measured flat, that's something that I learned afterwards, becoming a flat earther. That's how I've learned that, ladies and gentlemen.
But when
not during the military life at all. Never hit upon it. Go ahead.
Yeah, but when you do, that's what Nathan's saying. That's when it's going to click and be like, holy shoot. I always knew, because I always knew too.
I never make that statement.
My brother. Hold on. I berated my brother, but then when the penny dropped, I was like, holy shoot, and went right back to me questioning the teacher, spinning the bucket of water over her head, because none of them, we're told we live on a globe, but it doesn't sit well with us. So eventually, when the penny drops, it's going to be like, holy shoot, I always knew it, like 10th man.
No, I can't make that statement.
You said that, Jim.
Hang on. I was always measuring Earth flat, but I didn't realize that the Earth was flat. That's going to be always going to be my statement. It's never going to be, oh, I always knew it was flat. No, I cannot make that statement. I always measured the Earth flat, though, ladies and gentlemen, and I didn't realize that the Earth was actually flat. That's what you have to say. That's the honesty and the integrity of my situation as a human being on the Earth, measuring Earth flat without realizing I was living on it. That's how it has to be delivered. So people get to understand the depth of the deception itself, the psychological effect that happens to me and to everybody else, because no one else can escape this. That's the truth. That's the truth there. Not, I knew it was flat. No, I didn't know it was flat.
We got you. However, the first part of your statement, which you say, well, ladies and gentlemen, I always measured it flat, followed by you saying, well, I didn't realise that meant the Earth was flat. The public doesn't have to make that disclaimer, though. Without lying, they can just say the first statement. Well, I measured Earth flat as a cadet. End statement. No deception. No disclaimer. That is to say that the public doesn't want, or people generally don't want to feel stupid. So if there is an ability to suggest that they have been deceived and they need to disclaim that because we say so, then we become little Hitlers where, no, we need you to acknowledge that we were here first. We saw it before you, making us special. But when the public can say, well, I just measured it flat already, without adding on any disclaimer about how they were deceived into the indoctrinated system that we all found ourselves in. So long as they don't have to do that, there is a gateway for the public to accept this. Nobody wants to feel stupid. Yeah? Now, it's been made such that we, as a public, ridicule flat earthers, instinctually tell them that they're wrong, because we've been taught better, and we know better, therefore we feel smart. But if we're to have that as an antithesis, situationally, we need to give the public the opportunity to just say, I did measure Earth flat anyway, without having to disclaim that they were indoctrinated into being on a ball. That does two things. One, it takes away the power of the person who's trying to brainwash you. Let me explain that a little bit further with a different example. It's just as beneficial to have people brace against the deception that they have faced as it is to deceive them in the first place. For example, let's pretend that you invented an invisible boogeyman that floated through the air and you'd have to, I don't know, take a magic pill to stop you getting infected by the invisible boogeyman. And then you convinced everybody that they had to take the magic pill to save them from the invisible boogeyman. Once you've got everybody to take the invisible boogeyman pill, if you then turn around after everybody's done it and said there was no invisible boogeyman, you've all been deceived, that serves just as much control power. It offers the person doing it just as much power as convincing them in the first place to take the invisible pill because of the invisible boogeyman. Both are just as effective. That is to say, there's a similar thing. I mean, I can't explicitly make the connection, but unless you're very stupid, I'm pretty sure you can figure out what I'm talking about, that happened in the last 5 years, where people were convinced of an invisible boogeyman, made to take an imaginary sugar pill, and then told after the fact that they were dumb for doing so. Well, both sides works. So if we, in our own weakness, lean into forcing the general public to acknowledge their stupidity and their ability or ease to be deceived, then they will not accept the reality of a flat Earth, because nobody wants to feel stupid.
I disagree with that. I disagree entirely, because it's all about honesty. Yes, people want to feel stupid, but when they hear people like me speak and speak to the deception, because it's there. I'm not going to deny there was no deception. To go around saying, I knew it was flat, I'm never going to let anybody get away with that at all. I'm going to say, no, you didn't know it was flat. Okay, it was until you met the flat earthers that you realised it wasn't a flat earth. And I'm going to be talking to those surveyors in particular, for example, because you measured it. You saw it there, but you didn't realise, did you? Right, I didn't. Such was the deception, wasn't it? Right. That's the honesty. Can't be going around saying to people, oh, I knew it was flat. Anybody says that to me, they're going to get a ton of bricks on them. I'll tell you that now. Don't start lying about the deception. Keep that deception right in front of you, because that's going to be your tool to alert you to other deceptions that may be going on. You may be prompted to go and check. So nobody's going to get away with that with me anyway. Oh, I always knew it was flat. You're out of your fucking mind. Excuse my French.
Sorry. Regardless,
yeah, sorry.
I'm not suggesting that they have the ability to deny being indoctrinated, but to never mention it is not to lie. To say, as a cadet, I used a compass. I'm acutely aware of how flat Earth is and how a compass works. That doesn't mean you're having to disclose how indoctrinated you formerly were after an acceptance of the obvious. The obvious being that Earth is flat, dealt with as such by everybody. And there is, in my opinion, I know it disagrees with you, Jin, no need to disclaim that. No need to suggest that, oh, well, you did know it was a ball until you knew it was flat. Why would you have to force somebody into doing such a thing? You don't, in my opinion. But
in my opinion, you do, because
Jin.
you're explaining. Yeah, I thought you had finished. Sorry.
You don't have to force people into acknowledging where they've been deceived if the awful truth for the deceived is easy to acknowledge without any disclaimers. That is to say, if you've used a compass, you have ipso facto dealt with Earth as a flat plane with flat directionality. And you can simply exclaim how flat you appreciated it to be every single time you used a compass without offering any deception. But I fear that if there were an abundance of people like yourself, Jin, that decided that they would force people into an acknowledgement of how deceived they have been past tense, people will be alienated from the subject. Giving them the ability to simply accept the reality as it has always presented it to them is the only way that people will be comfortable transitioning. And further to that, if you force them, as you suggest, to open their eyes to the other deceptions, like the invisible boogeyman, followed up by, well, you were deceived by the powers that should not be into believing there was an invisible boogeyman, that's just as powerful. So saying that it opens their eyes up to deceit, when you look into those deceitful ways, you are still offering power to the liar. It's like when you encounter some narcissistic scumbag who lies to you. When you find out that they have lied and then you reapproach them to challenge them on their lies, you're offering them just as much power over you when you challenge them. What takes away power from that sort of individual or entity or institution is to actually do the opposite, to turn your back on it. Then you offer it no power. So to not say, well, I need to open my eyes to the deception of the world and the bureaucracy and the politics that is all riddled with deceit, if you turn your back on those things with an acknowledgement of, in this instance, how flat Earth actually always had been dealt with by yourself, then you don't offer more power to those institutions and entities and individuals, in my opinion.
Now, I totally 1,000% disagree with everything you said there. Ladies and gentlemen, look, I as an ex-cadet / Royal Engineer soldier for 2 years, okay, now, I'm not forcing you to do anything. I'm saying to you that if you're going to go around the world telling everybody, oh, I always knew it was flat, or I always knew it was measured flat, you can't say that. That would be a lie. Right? Because you are not actually telling the truth. Let me finish. You are not actually telling the truth. And I'm not forcing anyone to do anything. Because when people hear me speak of how I was deceived, and they consider I don't feel stupid because I believed in the globe. I don't feel stupid for that, because at the end of the day, it was what I was taught, and I carried the belief from my youth. But it wasn't until 48 years later, okay, that I realized I was in error. But I can say that. Okay, it's not, I don't feel any less a human being. It highlights the fact that I was deceived for that length of time. And it would spur other people to realize that for themselves. Let me go, if he's right, let me go and check. Let me go and check in case I'm doing something wrong. That's all. That's not forcing anyone. That's prompting people to have another think about their lives. Who are you living for? Are you living the life that you think you've got in control? Or are you living a life where it's full of assumptions, deceptions? Do you understand what I mean? You know, that's what we're going through ourselves. As a flat earther, I had to go through all that, right? So I'm battle hardened, but I'm gentle. I'm not saying you must, but no one's going to come to me and say, I always knew it was flat. You're not going to tell me that. You're going to tell me.
I'm going to say that because when I came to my senses, that I realized that, every time I was building, Jin, I was measuring Earth flat. That's all I'm saying.
And to support what Nathan was saying a minute ago about turning your back, Tolstoy wrote a letter called, they call it now, Letter to Liberals, if you want to look it up. It's a very long letter he wrote later in life to a lady, I think, that was complaining that the government had taken their book club, their reading club, and changed ministries of where it was controlled by. So, you know, Ministry of Libraries to Ministry of Truth. I don't know, whatever. But she was complaining that they were now saying that they can't read books. You can't read this book. You can't read that book. What shall we do? And she was asking, you know, Tolstoy what any advice he had. Very long letter, very well worth reading if you want to get an idea of his communications with people just outside of his books. And he said one thing that has stuck with me ever since then. It applied to me when we were homeschooling. And people were asking me, you know, well, what about registering your kids for school? And what about doing this and doing that with the government? And will the government be okay? Will you be arrested? Blah, blah, blah. He said, basically, you cannot do anything with the government without being part of it. And to be a part of it, you must lie. At some point, you must lie about something, and you will justify it because it's for the greater good. And then you will become a liar. If you're going to deal, when dealing with anything like this, and not just governments, he said, ignore the state. And that's been my motto for 30 years is if you ignore the state, turn your back on them, then they no longer have power over you. And that's the same thing for the whole flat earth idea and stuff like that. And or conspiracies. Ignore the state. Ignore the people who have power over you. Live your life as if you are living free. That's it.
Well, that would mean then you'd stop voting for that entity then. That's what you're saying, basically. To ignore the state, ladies and gentlemen, is to pull out of the system you are living in on this flat earth. And that means, obviously, you're not going to be participating in the government's come and vote for us, we've got your back shit. You're not going to be doing that, are you now? That's what you're stating. Because that's what you have to be meaning.
Yeah. Ignore the state. Don't do anything. Don't do anything. The state has you. The whole reason that the candy was offered to the people rather than forced on the people was because people voluntarily ate the candy. They were feared into it. They were told it was necessary. They were told all kinds of things about the boogeyman, and you need to eat this candy, and you need to do it. And you could lose your job if you didn't. And we were all told that. But ultimately, everybody, every single person, voluntarily ate the candy. And that's the way the government works. You have to volunteer to do something. They cannot literally force you. If you ignore the state and ignore those pleas and negotiate when you are put up in the position where you are going to be fired, they can't really fire you. They can't really, they can. You can fight back though, or you can just decide to not.
No, that's different. The people that are working for the government, they could get fired, but the people that own stores and they were told, lock your doors, you can't open up, those are the ones that could have just went in and opened up.
Yes, they could. That's what I'm saying.
Not a problem.
Right. Yeah. They voluntarily closed their doors.
Yeah.
The ones who just ignored the state and opened their doors anyway and said, screw you, they did fine. We just didn't hear about them because they were not favored in the algorithm, which Nathan should definitely understand.
Yeah, that's true what you said there. Same thing happened here in Japan, ladies and gentlemen. Been in Japan 26 years. When we had that 5-year nonsense that the government was pushing out, we didn't have any lockdowns because the government really couldn't. Prime Minister Abe stated that he didn't have the laws in place to do that. So he was asking for everyone's cooperation. But in the end, people stopped cooperating because they were losing money. You know, they couldn't. The government subsidies wasn't enough to help them survive. So they just went back to work. They pushed back. That's a good thing. I myself have never voted for the state in my life because I never saw anything there that was going to be benefiting me. That's why I never voted. Okay, so I've always been against the state, and I'm with Surf Daddy when he says, yeah, you got to do that. I'm with that 100%. So there you go. But I'm never going to let anyone get away with, oh, I always knew it was flat. No, you did not, sir. Sorry. Don't give me that crap.
I will add that no one, I think what the little part that we're missing here is that no one wants to be told or no one wants to be suggested to that now they're a flat earther. I think welcome to flat earth, as it was used throughout the show life, was perfect for the show. All right. For who we were debating. I think the normies that we're talking to now are the people that want to realize that they are measuring the flat earth, that they've always been doing it, and move on with their day. Yeah. They don't generally want to be labeled as a quote unquote flat earther.
I don't know where you're getting that from. At all. That's a very wild, sweeping statement there that people want to fall into this kind of frame of mind. No way. I don't accept that either. That's too assertive. How do you know that?
No, they don't. Because now most people don't think about flat Earth. They don't think about any of that in context of the flat Earth debate. The pancake in space, the whole conspiracies, all that stuff. No one wants to be a flat earther. No one wants to be called a globehead either, or a glober. No one thinks about this stuff in this context.
Right.
If we are going with the idea that enlightening people of how they've always measured the Earth, then they just need to be taught that and see that for themselves. But if we are adding the context of now you're a flat earther, or now you're
or
off
you
the
were
globe,
previously
all this
deceived.
stuff.
To suggest that they were previously deceived, as Jin is saying, I'm not going to let them not get away with not knowing that they'd been previously deceived. It's like, well, then we will have limited success. Offering them the opportunity to recognise how they always functionally utilised Earth isn't forcing any member of the public into an acceptance that they were previously deceived, or in a divide and rule mentality where we've got a category ascribed to them as a flat earther or a globe believer, as Surf Daddy's saying. And I agree. You've got to just give them the opportunity to, what is it that it says in the Matrix? You just show them the door. You don't make them walk through it. You just show them it. Don't brandish them
I'm
as
not
they
doing
walk
that
through.
though, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not making them walk. I'm not forcing them through the door. All I'm doing is to make sure they understand that if you're going to go around and say, oh, I always knew it was this. No, you didn't. And I'm going to say, no, you didn't do that. No, you learned as we learn it. You were deceived just like everybody else. Okay, that's the honest truth. And people don't want to be called flat earthers. They're not looking into it. And even if they find out that the earth is indeed flat, they don't have to call themselves flat earthers. No one's forcing any individual to do that. They can say, I live on a flat earth, and I'm a human being who lives on a flat earth. Okay, that's fine. Right, but I am not responsible for forcing anyone into any pigeonhole. I've had great success in talking about this topic matter to people because the way I speak about it, and it's always from my own experience first and foremost. So when they realize me speaking with passion and it's truth, they look at themselves, well, if Jin's not bothered about his deception, but he's highlighting the fact that he made an error for 48 years, that's honesty. That's integrity.
Yeah,
That's
but Jim, how
value.
can you tell somebody if they turn around and say, I always knew it was flat, who are you to say, no, you didn't?
Oh,
You can't
quite
say
easily.
that.
Quite easily, because I'll ask them, how did you know it was always flat?
And they'll say just like I said,
Okay,
I was
let's
always
just-
measuring it, but I didn't
Yeah,
realize
but you
it.
didn't know you was on a
Hold on,
flat
both of you
earth,
stop
though,
a
because I
second.
know that.
Stop a second.
I know you didn't
Hold
know.
on. What if they turn around and say,
Thank
I've
you.
used a compass? They won't be lying, will they?
And I got a tool. I measured it when I
They
was
didn't
building
know
it.
they were living on a flat earth, ladies and gentlemen. Final statement. They
No,
did not
it's the
know they were living
subconscious.
on a flat earth. And if they were going to try and say they did always knew they were living on a flat earth, because they were measuring it, then, the question's definitely begging the question there. Come on.
When I came to realization, I was like, dude, I always knew it was.
So you knew the earth was flat then.
Neil.
So you knew
Well-
you knew you were living on a flat earth, Neil.
Once I
Is that
realized
right
it
now,
was
Neil?
flat, then I said,
Neil,
I
did
realized.
you know you were living on a flat earth
Jin,
when you
you're
were
just
making your
rumpusing
measurements,
now.
Neil?
Please,
Yes.
Jin, chill.
Yeah, I don't know what
Yes,
he's getting
if-
so tight about. Yeah, Jen, when I realized I was living on a flat earth, I said I always knew it. I even challenged the teacher. But
You are
we
not
know.
answering my. You are not answering my question. You are not answering my question, Neil. I'll ask it again, Neil. Neil, did you know you were living on a flat earth? When you were measuring the earth flat, were you not still living on a globe?
See how
Wasn't that
silly
not
it
your
sounds?
frame of
Yeah,
mind?
but you're missing the point,
Pause,
so I'm not
pause.
going to
Hello.
explain it
I'm
again,
not
Jim.
missing
Pause a
any
second.
point.
Hello,
No, I'm
hello,
not
hello.
missing any point.
Can you hear me? Bloody
Hello?
hellfire.
Hello, yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah, go ahead.
So you're saying, how dare you say just because you always measured Earth flat, you knew it was flat? It's like, if you've used a compass, you know it's flat. Now you're saying that you simultaneously have something called cognitive dissonance, where you're holding simultaneously two positions that are in contradiction with one another. In this case, you're measuring Earth flat, you're using a compass to do so, but you simultaneously, that's cognitive dissonance, believe something contrary to how you're measuring it. You don't have to force the person into a recognition. If they can acknowledge that, yeah, I've used a compass, That's where their statement should be allowed to end. Now, you feel aggrieved and like, well, I had to learn how flat it was. And you're just going to turn around and say, well, you always used a compass. Yeah, you should be able to allow that. Why not? Just allow them to relieve themselves of the second part of their cognitive dissonance and retain the true bit without having to acknowledge how stupid they were, without having to acknowledge that they formally believe something different. That isn't necessary, in my opinion.
It is very healthy to acknowledge one's stupidity, so you don't make that stupid mistake again. Very healthy. To deny the fact that you were deceived in this case is absolutely wrong in your cognitive development to carry on with your life. Okay, and then to be able to bring up your children properly and teach your children. So if you make a mistake, you acknowledge that, and it's always part of being honest. So I'm always going to be that character. I'm never going to be the guy that's going to allow anybody to say, "Oh, we always knew it was flat." Well, how did you always know it was flat? By that I mean you knew you were living on a flat Earth and not on a globe spinning through the universe. Yeah, that's what I mean by that point.
Okay, let me just respond to you. So if I say, yeah, I've used a compass.
All right, yes, so you've used a compass, so what? Does that prove that you were not living on a globe, sir? Did you actually connect?
Now you're forcing me.
That you were not living on a globe when you were measuring this flat? That's the question I'm going to ask.
I heard you three times. Heard the same question 3 times, thanks. Yeah, now you're forcing me to acknowledge that I formerly believed something else. That seems very unreasonable. Your question was...
No, that's very reasonable.
Finished.
Sir.
I heard you ask 3 times.
Very reasonable, sir.
I heard you ask about gin. Yes, I heard the 3 repetitions of, was that me acknowledging how globe-shaped it wasn't? I don't have to do that. I don't have to force next man to do that either. In answer to your question, what do you mean you always knew it was flat? Yes, I used a compass.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, when that comes up, I'm always going to ask the person, so when you were measuring the Earth flat or when you were using your compass, were you still in the frame of mind that you were living on a globe, sir?
Why?
That's what I'm always going to do that. You know why I'm going to do that, ladies and gentlemen?
That's mean.
Because it's part of the counselling and realisation of self-counselling, of course, because you've got to realise that you were deceived.
Okay, do you mind not being my counsellor? Is that okay by you? I haven't asked for it. You just asked about how we dealt with Earth.
It's a free gift.
I don't want it, thank you. You see it as a gift? What, making me feel stupid about formally believing something that I hadn't disclosed to you and didn't need to?
I'm not making you feel stupid. I'm not making you feel stupid. It's acknowledged. I think when you make this statement, "Oh, I've always knew it was flat," that's wrong in itself because you didn't know it was actually
now you're calling me a liar
Earth that you were living on.
No,
that's the point I'm making.
I've used a compass. You're going to challenge that? That's a fact.
I'm going to challenge it in the frame of mind you were at the time of day.
You don't know my frame of mind, Jin.
Whilst you were on a globe,
Stop.
sir.
Hello.
So then that means when you thought
Jin,
you knew
stop.
the Earth was
Please,
flat,
can you stop?
were actually believing you were on a globe. Thank you. That's all. That's all it is.
Sorry,
it's all about honesty.
I heard you. No, you don't know what's in my mind, Jin. That's very presumptuous of you to tell me what I was thinking when I was something that you've labelled me.
It was actually a question. It was a question that I put forward. A question.
Why are you questioning me? I don't want your counsel or your questions.
Well, unfortunately, you're in the public domain, and when you speak of the flat Earth, and you're trying to pass to me that you always knew it was flat, I'm going to quiz that because that for me is amazing. That you knew it was flat because I'm thinking when you make that statement, it means that it could mean that you knew the Earth was flat all along and you didn't think you were the globe. And that's what I'm trying to find out, you see. That's all.
I've used a compass.
Yes, but at the time you were using the compass, sir, were you still believing you were on a globe spinning through the universe? Sir?
No, I was measuring Earth flat with a compass.
Yes, but were you... So at that time, were you actually thinking about the globe at the time? Because that's where we were living.
No, I was just measuring Earth flat with a compass.
Okay. So now in hindsight, sir, did you not realise that at the time you were when you were measuring and using your compass, did you not know that you were not living on a globe?
Did I not know that I wasn't doing something? I wasn't really thinking about what I wasn't doing. I was just measuring. I haven't finished responding to you, Jin. Jin, I've got a live show with audience members that would like to hear me more than you. Thanks for talking straight through the middle of the response. No, I don't need to be told what I'm not doing when I just use a compass. how I need to acknowledge something that it isn't doing? Why would you ask me about acknowledgement of something that I'm not doing? Why would I need to do that?
Well, because you offered up this get out of jail card for those people who don't want to feel stupid, right? Which I think is absolutely ridiculous to even make such a statement. People don't want to feel stupid. Look, ladies and gentlemen, if you are believing in the globe, you believed in the globe through your education, that's your innocence there, and it was reinforced. A psychological bombardment happened to you all through your life. Now, you found out that the earth is indeed flat through Nathan Oakley's Flat Earth Debate show, for example, and now you've read his book, ladies and gentlemen, okay? Then you're going to start walking around saying, oh, I always knew it was flat. If you meet me, I'm going to pull you up on that immediately, because you cannot be doing that. You have to acknowledge your mistakes, because that's what we were brought up to do. You acknowledge your mistakes so that you don't make them the next time. It's all about acknowledging. Nothing wrong with that. It's not making you feel stupid. And if you do feel stupid, so be it. You don't be stupid the next time. Okay? I don't think my method is going to I'm not forcing it down anybody. I'm not running anybody away from flat earth. And I don't think flat earth I'm not going to attract people. In fact, I'm going to attract more people. And that's what's happened to me. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I've been very successful in being forthcoming of my deception that was perpetrated upon me from my childhood and my family. And then they asked me, my last point, what did you do to your children? I said, as soon as I learned about the flat earth, I immediately went to my children to get them to understand that at school, you are learning something that's not true. That's what and I'm a teacher, and that's what teachers do. That's honesty. I'm never going to let anybody tell me any different from that. And if I meet anybody stating that, oh, I always knew it was flat, I'm going to quiz them as to what they mean by that. That's all. And that's within my right. If you don't want to answer the question, that's up to you. I'm finished.
Oh, that's a good discussion, Neil. No, but if I just say, I just used a compass, I mean, I don't know, who cares? In the indifference that people offer when you present it to them, as we do currently, a lot of people will turn around and say, what difference does it make? And they can do the same. If they want to offer up that indifference, why not let them?
I mean, on another note, you've got people in the arena where we are now. Now we've just nailed it down to measurements. Like, for instance, you've got Simon Dan measuring Earth flat. He knows he's measuring Earth flat, not just locally. But he will still tell you that's happening on a globe. You've got Dave McKeegan showing us elevation profiles horizontally, 0 degrees sea level, and just saying he knows that's flat and horizontal, but it's just easier to do that. He also knows the Earth's flat, but he won't admit it for some reason. And then even when you throw two examples, Dave McKeegan was asked 9 times from me to discuss Eratosthenes, how he measured the circumference of Earth, and he didn't want to approach it because he'd said, I'll just go back to Nathan and the crew and say, and welcome into Flat Earth. That's correct. And I've just put that question to the guy Nathan was debating on text the other day several times. Let's talk about Eratosthenes and how he measured the circumference. That's a Nathan Oakley tactic, and he won't answer it because he also knows the Earth's flat and it's always been measured flat, and the Greeks all knew that.
I'm glad you said that one, Dec. That was very eloquently put there, because that lines up with my 5 days New Year experience thus far. I've been on other servers, and in particular, it was this Earth Awakenings and Worldwide Chat. And ladies and gentlemen, I had to drive home the point because they were making me look like the criminal here. I'm bringing the truth, the actual facts, right, from Nathan Oakley's mouth to their ears, for example. Okay, Earth is measured flat, utilized flat. Nathan Oakley's where I heard that first, by the way. Now I'm bringing those words to them, and they're making me look like I'm the criminal. I had to drive home the point, but I drove it home, and I drove it home good, ladies and gentlemen, and I was very successful in the end. Okay, so sometimes you do have to drive it through to them because they're making you look like you're the one that's incorrect with the statements you're making. Earth is measured flat and utilized flat, always has been, always has done. And then I backed it up with some of the material that we were looking at last year, in the latter months in October, November, December. Okay, and I gave them that material to look at these individuals in their jobs. Okay, so don't tell me that I'm incorrect or Nathan Oakley is incorrect when he makes this statement of fact. Okay, so that's me. I've been very successful. I can do it softly, which I do generally, but the past couple of days I've had to drive home that point because it's the truth. That's why. Thank you.
Are you talking about the Simon Dans and people like that, worrying about them having to get out of jail free card, or just a regular person?
I'm talking about anyone who wants to go down that road. And so, you know, the Globers that have been abusing us, for example, calling us tinfoil hat wearers, even the newbie people, they're out there thinking flat earth are stupid. Those people, as anyone trying to get away with, I always knew. No, you didn't not always know, sir. What do you mean by that? And I will quiz them to understand where they're coming from.
Yeah, because subconsciously I did. It brought me right back. When I looked and I couldn't find globe proof, I was like, shoot, I knew it. That's why I challenged the teacher. Every time I went to the beach, I knew it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as I said, I will always question anybody who's coming from that particular route. He's putting it into public domain. I'm there. I'm going to question it. I've been a 10-year proponent of heavily scrutinizing this particular situation. We've come across a lot of abuse and a lot of deception amongst those who are abusing us. They're deceivers as well. So anybody coming with that, I'm going to question it for their genuinity. That's all. Are you sure? Because I didn't hit upon it. So, I mean, what was it that you know, I want to understand that individual, you see, and that's all part of learning. That's why I'm going to quiz them. I'm not going to let anyone get away with it, though. They're lying about it. I say, well, so that's not true.
Not getting away with anything. You're telling you the truth when they said I always knew it.
Well, to always know it was flat, ladies and gentlemen, but for me, is to know that you were living on a flat earth. And that means you've acknowledged it and you were not living on a ball that's hurtling through the universe. That's what I mean. You can, if you're making that claim, I would say, and how did you come by that? Oh, because you were measuring flat. So you knew it was a flat earth. You didn't really need to come to flat earth. You knew all along. There's a difference there. And remember, the statement was made to not let people feel silly, not feel stupid. That's why it was originally coined, that statement there. I remember it very well. And that's when I said, that's giving them a get out of jail free card. Never going to let them get away with that.
Why do you want them to feel stupid? Go ahead, whoever that was. Feel free. I'm just trying to get the conversation going.
Yeah, I don't want to make anybody feel stupid at all.
No, there was someone else. Yeah. Hold on, Jin. Someone else was trying to get away. Yeah. Who is it? Okay.
All right. See, there's no one trying to get a word in. I was just trying to say that, you know, just helping people to acknowledge that in my case, yeah, I was deceived. I realized that deception and it strengthened me. That's all. That's what that's done. And of course, I've had a longer look at my life now and look back, and now I picked up. In fact, flat earth was the last deception. I picked up all the other deceptions before flat earth. Flat earth was the last piece in the jigsaw puzzle of my life in deceptions, actually. So I came full circle. Brilliant ending, I think. Capping stone. So it's always good to acknowledge the deception and to acknowledge one's mistakes. It's not a crime, and you're not feeling stupid about it. You're being honest.
Basically, what you're saying there, Jin, is all your roads led to a flat earth.
Exactly. That's what God intended. Thank you, One Deck. That's why I love the title of the book. Of course. What a title right there. That's exactly how I would name it. It was mine. All roads lead to a flat earth. As if to say all roads lead to Rome, you see. I love that title, man. Wow.
Thanks. It's been a good discussion. You know, it's good that we have a difference in opinion about this, but where you say it's a get out of jail free card, I say that's a necessity. You know, for people to have an acceptance of the subject, they need to be having that, what you call get out of jail free card, because people don't want to feel stupid. And if they do, they'll just reject it out of hand because they feel stupid.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have triumphed over that cognitive dissonance. And when I say triumph to the good in the way that I'm helping the individual, because I always lay down these foundation disclaimers. As I'm talking to you today, don't think that I think I'm better than you, because that's not what I'm about here. It's just that I'm carrying the knowledge that you have not actually gleaned yet. And it could be that in the end, you could articulate this topic matter better than me. That's all. So don't think I'm better than you here. All right, I didn't know the numbers. So when I was asked the questions, I didn't know. I only knew a little bit. Okay, but I've since looked into it. So I put down the disclaimer that I'm not here to make you look stupid. That's not what it's about. I want to inform you of a deception that's going on that you don't realize. That's all. And then eventually that cognitive disappears, fades away in the mist, and then they sit down, they relax, and then the questions are flowing beautifully. And before they know where they are, they're investigating, they're coming back saying, it's all flat, bloody, I didn't even realize that. And they're enjoying it, and now they're joining the server and whatever.
So, Jin,
I
you want
love
to
it.
share your knowledge, in other words.
I am sharing them the truth that is out there. That knowledge is waiting for anyone to pick up. But yes, in that sense, yeah.
If they already knew, like if they used a compass.
I knew. I worked on construction sites, and I went to the beach, and I said to myself, it's got to be flat.
It's got to be flat anyway, no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. Ladies and gentlemen, those words that Earth is measured and utilized flat, it's without it, you can't be even using your compass. I mean, that's how straight truth it is. So there you are.
I think for most people, they're fine learning that the Earth is measured flat. I don't think they want to become an altar boy for flat Earth or for even spreading the truth of how we've always been measuring stuff forever. We need to give, when we have our personal interactions with people, which is what we're talking about, one-to-one or as personal as it can get, I like to just lightly tell them, yep, it's measured that way, giving them an example, height, elevation, miles distance, measurement to Polaris, your latitude, and then move on. Give them an opportunity to take their golden drawbridge away from the situation and make of it what they will. You're planting seeds, not proselytizing and street preaching in the majority of the cases. And you let them.
I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that at all. That's not what I'm doing. I'm sitting in a place where people come to me. You know, the timing would have to be right, and I select that timing perfectly well to engage people on the streets quite easily. And that's when I'm on holiday on the beach, snowboarding, wherever. You know, it depends. But I've always done that because I think it's interesting to engage with people that way. Especially camping. That's one of my best venues when I'm camping.
I think you have lots more opportunities like that, Jin. I mean, I personally haven't, you know, apart from close family and friends having the discussion, which sometimes has ended a little bit heated. So don't really do that anymore unless it just pops up for some reason unknowingly. But there's been very rare occasion where actual normie Joe who lives down the road who's come to me and just wants to say, well, can you tell me all about this subject? Really interested. I've never had that. The only and then it's just usually been arguing on servers with anti-flat earthers talking nonsense.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you an example of what I did. You know, my avatar, as you can see me, that was me in 2018 at the top of Diamond Head, which is a crater in Hawaii, okay? I climbed it at 25 minutes flat, the fastest I've ever done it. I've been there 6 times with my family, and I climbed that mountain, that they call it a mountain, but it's not, it's just a crater, 25 minutes, okay? And I'm at the top now on the pillbox, shouting out, it's a flat earth. I've got the flat earth t-shirt on. But look at the horizon, people. Look, where's the curvature? How many of you have heard of the flat earth here? And a few of them put their hand up. I was like, okay, well, it's flat. It's true. Look at it. Take my picture. Don't forget this day, the day somebody told you about the flat earth. And then I said, what are the odds that a guy born in London, living in Japan, comes to Hawaii for his holiday with his family and he's informing you about the flat earth? There must be something in it, don't you think? Go ahead, take your picture. And then investigate flat earth. And then I went back down and I got outside the hotel, and then you got the Jehovah's Witness there. They called me over. Their reason for calling me over was to try and sell me their Watchtower book. And I said, look, I know about your organization because they used to come to my house in London every Wednesday as a kid. His name was Frank. So I know that. But what I want to tell you is, do you not realize you're living on a flat earth? So I flat smacked them. And in the end, all the material that on my smartphone, I showed them, and they were picking links that they wanted. I showed them the sun and the moon on the orbit, on the flat earth, AE map, for example. That was 2018, remember? And then the cluster of planets hurtling through the universe. I says, which one of these really does make sense to you? And there was 5 of them, 2 women, 3 men, right? Jehovah's Witness. I was with them for 1 hour, okay? And they were very, very receptive. So it just depends on your approach, how you do it. It was a great experience.
Oh, you know why, Jen, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
They're big heliocentrists, Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah.
Big time heliocentrists.
Right. But that didn't come out of them. You know that the heliocentric.
No, but if you were intriguing them, that's why, because they're deep rooted in heliocentrism. So if you're saying something that's piquing their interest, that's why you had them there for a few hours.
That's right. I said to them, you should know your earth before you start doing all this Jehovah's Witness. Know where you are first, fundamentally. And it's not a spinning ball hurtling through the universe. The oldest one was 45 years of age, because I asked him, I said, so for 45 years, you've got the cluster of planets hurtling through the universe. Where are we headed? And he wanted that link. I goes, here's the link for you. Anybody else? Yeah, there you go. Yeah. And it was brilliant. Engaged there. I engaged with them beautifully. Loved it for 1 hour. 1 hour and so. And then I helped them translate some English into Japanese because they wanted to meet some of the Japanese people. But I said, really, they're the wrong target because they have Jehovah's Witness in Japan. These are the very wealthy of Japan who come on holiday here. Look at the shopping bags. Look, you're not going to help them. You're not going to help them. Not here. They're on holiday here. What you want to do is help the homeless in Hawaii. Go help the Hawaiian people, the ones who are actually homeless on their own land. That's what I said. There you go.
Hey, was he a trig point on top of that mountain, Jim? Remember?
Yes.
Oh, that was perfect opportunity, wasn't it, to tell them what the trig point is and show them how it's in reference to sea level.
Yes.
And how it's got a level surface to level your theodolite when measuring the surface of Earth. That would have been brilliant. Now you know.
You won't want to go back up there.
You can do it again.
I'm going to do that when I go back up there. That's what I was going to say. The next time I go back up there, that's exactly what I'm going to be saying. Sorry.
What if they've already seen it and say, look, we always knew it was being measured flat?
Well, if you always knew it was always being measured flat, did you actually connect to the actual you were living on a flat earth and not a spinning ball? Which is a fair question, sir. Aha. Thank you. That's all I want to know. Thank you very much. You're not going to stop this old school. Old school is still very relevant, ladies and gentlemen. We have the knowledge.
Well, I would have taken it, that's you, but I would have taken Jehovah's Witnesses right to their book where it says that he set his line across the earth, upon the breadth of the earth. That's all measurements there.
Indeed. I'm going to round out the live show on that note. So with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive, huge thank you to all of you who liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley and I will see you all in the next video.
But when you measure it flat, it contradicts that. I'm spitting flat facts and that. And I know you don't like that. Google Maps is flat, it presents elevation profiles like that. I'm a spitting flat earth king. Sentence has a ring, doing my own thing. If Earth was a big roast chicken, factually finger licking chicken. We just got the measurements missing. I'm spitting eggs and vegs, begging the question lesson. I've said it before, time after time. I'm the spitting flat earth king of rhyme.